Hey everyone, have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt judged? Like what you're wearing is a neon sign telling everyone your worth? We've all been there. But what if the person in the simple outfit, the one everyone's whispering about, is actually the most important one there? This is a story for anyone who's ever been prejudged, counted out, or made to feel less than because of their appearance. It's about a $12 suit, a room full of doubters, and a moment of truth that will give you chills. If you believe that real success comes from the inside, you're gonna love this one. So get ready for a powerful lesson in humility and hustle. And hey, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss this incredible reveal. Let us know in the comments about a time you were judged by your cover. Now, let's get into the story. The Glass and Steel Convention Center gleamed under the morning sun, a temple to corporate success. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of expensive coffee, ambition, and the subtle, competing notes of 100 different colognes. The Future Forward Business Conference was the place to see and be seen, a gathering of the sharpest minds and most promising entrepreneurs. And everywhere you looked, there was a uniform. $1,000 tailored suits, Italian leather shoes that shone like dark mirrors, and watches that cost more than most cars. Daniel walked through the automatic doors, his posture relaxed. He wore a simple, slightly too large navy blue suit. The fabric was a little thin in the elbows, the cut was unmistakably dated, and it had cost him exactly $11.99 at a local thrift store. It was clean, pressed, and functional. To him, that was all that mattered. The whispers started before he even reached the registration desk. They were subtle, like the rustling of leaves before a storm. "Check out the retro look," a man in a sharp pinstripe suit murmured to his companion, not bothering to lower his voice. "Must have gotten lost on his way to a 1990s job fair," the companion snickered. A woman clutching a patent leather binder gave him a once-over, her lips pursed in a mixture of pity and disdain. Daniel caught her eye and offered a small, polite smile. She quickly looked away, as if embarrassed for him. He collected his badge, the lanyard feeling heavy around his neck. He moved into the main hall, a vast space filled with buzzing conversation and the clink of porcelain coffee cups. He found an empty seat at a table near the back. The other 7 people at the table, all in immaculate business attire, barely acknowledged him. Their conversation was a loud, performative exchange of business buzzwords and name-dropping. "Once we secure the Series B funding, we're looking at a paradigm shift in the blockchain space," one man declared, adjusting his cufflinks. "Absolutely. We're disrupting the disruptors," a woman agreed, sipping her latte. Daniel remained silent, observing. He wasn't being shy, he was gathering data. He saw the insecurity hiding behind the bravado, the desperate need for validation masked as confidence. He'd been in their shoes once. Well, not these exact shoes. His were comfortable, broken-in loafers from a discount store. A man at the table, who'd introduced himself as Chad, finally turned to Daniel. "So what's your play, man? Who are you with?" "I'm here to listen, mostly," Daniel said, his voice calm. Chad's smile was condescending. Right. First conference? Don't worry, you'll learn the ropes. Network. That's the game." He gestured to Daniel's suit. "Maybe next time, invest in a better armor. First impressions, you know." The others at the table chuckled softly. Daniel just nodded. "I'll keep that in mind." The morning dragged on with a series of speakers, a venture capitalist, a tech guru, a best-selling author. They all looked the part. They spoke of grit and hustle, but their polished presentations felt sterile, rehearsed. Daniel took notes on a simple notepad, his mind working, connecting ideas they were missing. During the lunch break, the judgment intensified. As he stood in the buffet line, he overheard 2 men behind him. "See that guy? The one in the bargain bin special?" one said. "Yeah. Makes you wonder how he even got a ticket. Probably a blogger or something. More like a charity case." Daniel filled his plate with salad and chicken. He found an empty spot at a table, and the seats around him remained conspicuously vacant. He ate alone, undisturbed. He was used to it. This solitude had been his constant companion years ago, sleeping in the back of his beat-up Honda Civic, using the library's Wi-Fi to build his first company. The whispers in this lavish hall were nothing compared to the sound of his own stomach growling in those days. The $12 suit wasn't a sign of poverty, it was a reminder of a journey. A reminder that his worth wasn't sewn into a label. The final session after lunch was the keynote address. The conference organizer, a sleek woman in a crimson power suit, stepped onto the stage. The lights in the hall dimmed, leaving only a single spotlight on her. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing through the sound system. "Our final speaker needs no introduction in the world of venture capital and tech innovation. Yet he remains one of the most enigmatic and respected figures in the industry. He built his first company from the backseat of his car, with nothing but a laptop and a relentless belief in his vision. He's not just a self-made millionaire. He's a testament to the power of resilience. Daniel stood up from his table in the back. The people at his table glanced at him, assuming he was heading for the restroom. He is the founder and CEO of Apex Ventures, a firm that has quietly funded some of the most groundbreaking startups of the last decade, the organizer continued. But more than that, he's here today to share a different message. A message about what success truly looks like. Daniel began walking, not toward the exit, but down the central aisle, toward the stage. A few people noticed him, their brows furrowing in confusion. Chad from his table stared, his fork hovering halfway to his mouth. The organizer smiled, a genuine, warm smile. He believes that courage isn't about the armor you wear, but the battles you've fought without any. Please give a massive future-forward welcome to our keynote speaker, Daniel Thorne. The spotlight swung away from the organizer and landed directly on Daniel, illuminating the simple thrift-store suit in its brilliant, unforgiving light. He was 10 feet from the stage. Every whisper, every snicker, every condescending comment in the hall ceased. The silence was absolute, a physical weight pressing down on the audience. The man in the $12 suit was the keynote speaker, the self-made millionaire, the man they had all pitied and judged. Daniel didn't look at the stunned faces. He kept his eyes on the stage, a small, knowing smile on his face as he climbed the steps to the podium, ready to teach them the lesson they never knew they needed. Daniel reached the podium and stood for a moment, letting the silence stretch. He placed his simple notepad down and looked out at the sea of faces, many of them frozen in various stages of shock, embarrassment, and dawning horror. He could pick out the individuals who had been the most vocal. Chad, the woman with the binder, the men from the lunch line. They couldn't hold his gaze. He leaned into the microphone, his voice calm and clear, without a trace of nerves. "Thank you," he began. "I want to start by thanking you all for the warm welcome." A slight, knowing ripple of discomfort went through the crowd. "This suit," he said, plucking at the lapel of his jacket, "cost me $12. I know. The lapels are a bit wide. The trousers are a little short. It's not the armor you're supposed to wear into battle, is it?" He paused, letting the question hang in the air. 7 years ago, I was living in my car. This very notepad was my desk. The public library was my office. I had one suit then, too. It came from a charity bin. It didn't fit any better than this one. And when I'd go to meetings, to try and get funding for my idea, I'd see the looks. The same looks I saw in this room today. The whispers. The polite, distant smiles that never reached the eyes. They didn't see my business plan. They saw my ill-fitting jacket. They didn't hear my pitch. They heard the echo of my poverty. He had the entire audience in the palm of his hand. You could have heard a pin drop. Back then I thought I needed the uniform. I thought if I could just look the part, they'd listen. So I scraped and saved for months and bought a $2,000 suit. I walked into my next meeting feeling like a king. And you know what happened? They still said no. The suit didn't change my idea. It didn't change my passion. It just made me a poorer version of someone they were already used to seeing. He gestured out to the audience. I look out at you today, and I see a room full of $2,000 suits. I see the armor, and I have to ask, what are you hiding? What idea are you trying to prop up with Italian wool? What insecurity are you trying to cover with a Swiss watch? The questions were like surgical strikes. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My success didn't come when I finally bought the right suit. Daniel continued, his voice growing stronger. It came the day I stopped trying to wear one. It came when I embraced the fact that my value wasn't in my wardrobe, but in my work ethic, in my resilience, in my courage to walk into a room like this one, knowing I would be judged, and not letting that judgment change my course. He told them his story, the cold nights in the car, the countless rejections, the moment he stopped pitching to investors and started building, truly building, with or without their approval. He spoke of the first client who said yes because the product was genius, not because the founder looked rich. He spoke of building Apex Ventures on the principle of finding diamonds in the rough, of investing in hungry founders with fire in their eyes, not just polished pitches. This conference is called Future Forward, he concluded, his gaze sweeping the room. But you can't move forward if you're still judging people by their past. You can't build the future if you're only listening to people who look like they've already arrived. The next world-changing idea might be in the mind of someone wearing a $12 suit. Or no suit at all. The question is, will you be too busy laughing to hear it? He ended his speech not with a grandiose finale, but with a simple, "Thank you for your time." For a second, there was silence. Then, one person in the back, a young woman in a simple dress, began to clap. It was hesitant at first. Then another person joined. And another. The applause swelled, not out of politeness, but out of a profound collective understanding. It became a roaring, thunderous ovation that shook the very foundations of the hall. As Daniel stepped away from the podium, he didn't look at the standing ovation. He walked off the stage, past the stunned conference organizer, and back into the crowd. This time, as he moved through the hall, no one whispered. They watched him pass with a new expression: respect. He saw Chad, who looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Daniel stopped and looked at him. "The armor," Daniel said softly, tapping his own chest. "It's heavy, isn't it?" Daniel walked out of the convention center, the bright sun warming his face. The $12 suit had done its job. It hadn't been a mark of shame. It had been a filter. It had weeded out the people who saw the surface. And it had given him a platform to speak a truth that needed to be heard. He hadn't just given a speech. He had given a room full of people permission to take off their own armor and to finally see the courage that had been hiding underneath all along.